going to go ahead and kick things off here with our last candidate interview, and we are interviewing Ms. Evelyn Brooks. But first, if you don't know, the 2026 primary elections for Texas is coming up on March the 3rd with early voting starting February the 17th, which if you didn't know, that's today. So we talked a little bit about this, and we'll show you some voting locations, some early voting locations here all throughout East Texas. I'll share that with you guys here in just a bit. However, on the ballot, there are many statewide seats, including governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, land commissioner, agriculture commissioner, comptroller, and more. Republicans and Democrats also choosing candidates for congressional and legislative offices, the State Board of Education, and judicial seats. Today, we are talking with Ms. Evelyn Brooks. Let's go ahead and bring her in. She's running for Republican nomination for governor. Welcome in, Ms. Brooks, to East Texas Now. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me in today.
Well, I think the whole point here of this interview is to talk to you a little bit more about why you're running. So let's first ask you that. Why are you running, Ms. Brooks?
I am running because I want to fix our public education system primarily. I want to make children our priority and young people. I think as far as young people, they need to have a lot of hope, right? Everything is happening at once. And I think we're kind of neglecting those speaking points that they really need at this time. It's quite evident that they're in the need of a lot of answers and straightforward facts. What does life look like for them in the future, and what are we doing to help prepare them for it? So how so here, after sitting on the State Board of Education, quite frankly, I felt ineffective. I felt ineffective as far as really doing my due diligence and serving our children. And it's just different. Government works a lot different when you're on the inside. So I thought, well, if we really want to fix this, if we want to return to a traditional education where kids are actually learning education, and I thought you need to just kind of run for that position and take a leadership position.
Well, let's kind of dive into your background here. You have worked in education for over 2 decades, which is a long time. You've taught in Denver, the DC Metro, and of course, Texas. What led you to become a teacher? What did you enjoy most about your job? And how has being a teacher shaped you into the person you are today?
Certainly. That's a fun question because I was born with a pencil in my hand. I always knew I wanted to teach, and it always came kind of natural to me. Just a love for children, to see them develop and flourish and thrive. I always knew that was my goal for completing high school and really college. I just was driven by the fact that one day I was going to teach and kind of change a child's trajectory. How so? Am I here today? What was the other question that you said? How's that experience?
Yeah, how's it kind of shaped you?
Certainly. So, teachers, we're not in the business of teaching because it's glamorous or because we make a lot of money. We're really in it because we really have the heart of a servant. We really, we're the last person to really get recognition. So how does this prepare me? Just the ability to be flexible, the ability to lead, the ability to learn what I don't understand, and people skills. I understand people. I understand what mothers and fathers and grandparents need and children need. And I think that's kind of missing in government, just the heart of where are people right now and not being far removed from them, just thinking on the go and being available has been helpful in my education experience.
Well, you're currently a member of the State Board of Education, having been elected in 2022. A few questions here kind of surrounding this. What inspired you to run for office, and what was it like to go from teaching to help shape education policy? And then what accomplishments are you most proud of doing during your term on the board?
Can I get that one last?
Yeah.
I like to hit the last one first.
You hit the last one first, and then we'll go over the others.
One of my greatest achievements was, it was like my first or second meeting. My heart is beating, things are happening fast, and it's like, what's going on? But I came with a resolution. I came with a resolution because at the time schools were deciding on policy for bathroom and showers. Should students share those facilities under Title IX? So Title IX came out, it was during the Biden administration, and there were recommendations there. And some of those recommendations were those kind of accommodations for students who identified as a separate gender, the opposite gender of their biological sex. And so to make it easier, I asked the board members if we could have a resolution where we took a leadership role to say, we're going to protect students first, and we're going to ensure that biological boys use their restrooms and showers in hotels when they're away from school. And I did a lot of research, and I presented it. Of course, I didn't get very far with that because there was not a rule in the book, in our rulings for that. But it was a brave thing to do, right? It was something that I took initiative on my own independently. So I think that was one of my great takeaways. Another is I'm fast to say no as opposed to yes. I don't rubber stamp. I make sure that it's going to help our students, not hurt them, and teachers. I always consider teachers because we are always thought of last when it comes to education, unfortunately. So I try to put myself in the shoes of the teacher. I try to put myself in the shoes of a parent and a student when making my decisions and upholding my oath of upholding the Constitution, defending it, making sure that parents have their true choices and autonomy. And if it's not in favor of the Constitution, if it's not in favor of protecting our children and ensuring that our objective of teaching them education, academics, it's a no. So I'm the it's a no on the board kind of person. And serving on the board has taught me a lot, and I've learned a lot. And I have 18 counties in this district. I know parents by name. Parents can call me any time of day. I even have veterans call me, and I go and help veterans. So it's really given me an opportunity to hear the concerns that are related to education and address those concerns. So it's been a great experience on the board. And again, it's my why for running for this position.
All right. Well, Ms. Brooks, let's move on to a few of the issues that are listed over on your website. On education, you say, quote here, Texas education has shifted away from real knowledge and moved toward a government-centered system that overrides families and local communities. Explain what you mean by this, because some of our viewers might not understand. And why would schools and teachers have more autonomy? And why are you opposed to more centralized models of education?
Sure. So what we have to understand is that we know our children best as parents. Teachers know because we're trained to do that and they're certified to do that. So, my reason for moving forward in this area is definitely, repeat that one more time for me, Kylie, forgive me. Lost my train of thought.
No, you're totally fine. Let's kind of...
let me explain the law.
Yeah,
I got it. Got my thought back. Forgive me. So here's the laws. Okay. Parents are wondering, what are you talking about, as far as why are you saying we've shifted away? Why has education shifted away? Education has shifted away because our legislation, every time we go to legislative session, more and more mandates are put on schools that are unfunded, and more mandates are put out there changing education radically different from when you and I attended school. You look lovely, so I don't know if I could put you in that same category, but it was academically driven.
Yes.
And so today what we realize is the focus is now training a lot of job type skills. And if we notice, you could go into any career and technical education course and teachers will say things like, the students are in this course with me right now, like welding, but they have difficulty with fractions. They have difficulty reading and writing. So we really have to get back and make sure that our children have the basics, that they can actually read and write and do our due diligence. I'll give you a couple bill concerns that I have. So HB 1605. For those who do not know, HB 1605 make the state a vendor, a publishing company. So how can you really compete and give publishing companies who utilize that service using scientists and really fact based on the development of a child and give that over to the state to do, correct? So all the hats that the state wears, now there's another hat. And it's a vendor. And what does that do? It controls our true choices, is what it does. The school voucher system. So let's look at that a little bit. SB2. So SB2, under the pretense of we're giving parents choice. We already have choices. But the question is, do we want the government to run and rule and control those choices, like our private school choices and our homeschool choices? And I don't think that's what parents really are expecting. And that comes at the cost of our public school systems. How are we going to fund them efficiently? Schools are closing down, neighborhood schools. So your taxes, when they're leaving the city, where's the money to keep our schools open? And we're not talking about those real questions that affect 5.4 million school children. So laws like that, and I don't think parents really understand that the role and the power that the legislative branch holds in our education system.
Well, let's move on talking a little bit more about how you're in favor of limiting the expansion of charter schools for the sake of saving neighborhood schools. Why limit charter school expansion, and why do you say parents who support charter schools want to send their children to them?
Certainly. So there's a lot of studies to support that charter schools fare is equal to public schools, right? So you have charter schools that are excellent, and you have charter schools that close, actually. And actually about 50% or more of charter schools actually close within the first 5 years of opening. So now you have students, you have parents now that are now displaced. So you've put your student or your child in a school, and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be great, but the school closes. So what happens with charter schools is charter schools aren't held accountable the same way our public schools are. So there's an uneven measuring balance there to begin with. So let's say I have my child in a charter school versus a public school. Public school has a lot of rules and regulations, and charter schools have a lot more flexibility in that. And then just the amount of money that we put in this small charter school can impact an entire school district. So let's say I approve a charter school, because that's what the State Board of Education can do. They can approve one charter school, but charter schools can expand. So now one charter school can turn into 5 or 10, and that impacts an entire school community.
Well, let's move on here to the next topic, because we don't have much time until the 6 p.m. newscast. So I want to kind of get through this. Obviously, we covered a lot on education, but let's move on to talk about taxes and the economy. Governor Greg Abbott has staked much of his campaign on tax reform, as you probably have seen. Where do you and Governor Abbott agree or see differences, and what's your plan for lowering taxes?
Well, I don't know if many people know this, but the state of Texas has about $500 billion of local government debt. So just let that kind of settle a little bit. So 254 counties, $500 billion of debt. That's a lot of debt for a county and a community to assume. So to say that we can get rid of the tax rate, that's not going to happen unless every community is dependent on the state of Texas to write a check to keep the schools open. So I think we have to be a little bit more reasonable. And I think people have to understand there's two parts of how we pay private property taxes. One is the tax rate, and that's more involvement with the community. And the other is the appraisal valuation. And that is an area where we can redesign that, and we don't hear the governor talking about that. Let's talk about making that a more fair system where they're using like maybe a more universal framework that they base the valuation of our homes on. And why does it fluctuate every year, right? So those are some problems that we need to address, and that is a big bulk of the taxes that we're paying as private homeowners. So that has to be looked into. So his goal right now, he needs to sharpen his pencil again and really go back and consider how we can redesign that valuation system.
Well, let's talk about some things that everyone wants to talk about, which is artificial intelligence. You call for protecting Texas jobs from being eliminated by AI. Now, a lot of people have asked this question too. What would this entail?
I believe it would entail people before profit, people and safety before profit. So a lot of the industries, a lot of the corporations that come here, of course, that's under the direction and guidance of the governor and, of course, local communities, right? Local government. So with artificial intelligence, it should be a tool, not something that takes over our lives or something that takes over jobs. For example, there was a person I was speaking to was just laid off from Amazon, and 16,000 other co-workers were laid off, and they went to more of an AI platform. What do we do for workers in that position? What do we do for something that devastating to a family in a community? So as lawmakers, we have to ensure that when we are making deals, when we are making these business transactions, that we are putting the needs of people first. So how many jobs are you going to provide by coming and doing business in the state of Texas? And what does that look like? And limiting H-1B visas to make sure that Texas citizens have the priority over that. And lastly, artificial superhuman intelligence is more damaging and destructive than just regular AI. And people need to understand the difference. So anything with superhuman intelligence is very problematic for just humanity as a whole. So I would like to see guardrails that would prevent ASI from having a foothold in the state of Texas, and definitely protecting us from that kind of technology that can be very harmful.
Well, speaking of protecting everyone, let's talk about health care. You say priorities should be shifted to wellness and prevention. What would this look like in practice, and how would money be spent? Would you seek to promote MAHA, my goodness, can I speak today, style policies in Texas?
Certainly, that, of course, I would love to kind of be a leadership role with legislators with that. A lot of times we go to the doctor when we're sick, when it's kind of too late to deal with something. And there's not just enough talk and discussion around how can we prevent diseases and how can we keep our bodies healthy and functioning, thriving, right? I think if we put more energy into that the health bills that come as a result of not preventing diseases and sicknesses would really benefit not only the state, but it would benefit individuals. So something what that would look like is being more friendly, right, toward functional medicine, toward offices wanting to open here, toward doctors kind of wanting to do some of the more functional in the MD, just really looking at that and saying, hey, there are other options besides let's just treat this with a drug, this disease with a drug, or let's just, slap something on here, or we're really quick to medicate. But I think we need to really look at other choices and identify incentives to offer doctors and holistic practitioners who are willing to help Texans in the healthcare and wellness prevention arena. We can make it attractive and appealing and not mandate it like it has been so far. It's mandated.
Well, you are a proponent of vaccine choice. You say that healthcare priorities should be shifted to prevention. Now, there are a few questions that go with this, so stay with me. Aren't required vaccines for infants and vaccine mandates just that, preventing the spread of illness? And during public health crisis like COVID-19 and the pandemic, in your view, should personal choice triumph over all?
I think it is our body, and there should be an autonomy over our body, right? We always say, my choice, my body. And why would that be different in this respect? If anything, those who are inoculated, those who get vaccines, would be more of those who would be on the safe side, wouldn't you say, as opposed to those who choose otherwise or other different options. So it's really not impacting. I know they talk about herd immunity, COVID, you heard a lot about that, but there was also shedding. There are also people who, after getting the vaccine, there was a time where you can also get others sick because it is a live virus that they're putting into you for vaccines. So my thing is this: give parents choices. So it's not to say take it all off the table, but it is to say these are more helpful for spreading diseases for your children, and these vaccines are highly recommended. Let's say that. But right now doctors are incentivized for giving those vaccines to babies before their immune system is fully developed. 20, 30 vaccines at those first few days of birth. That's kind of a lot. That's kind of significant. So I think it's a good idea to kind of step back and say, is this 100% safe? And if it's not 100% safe, why not just kind of give the people a choice, but educate them at the same time. Educate them with the side effects, educate them with what is in it, what we're using, what metals are in these vaccines to preserve it. It's honestly just alerting the public. And let's look at the vaccines during COVID. We didn't know how safe those were. We honestly weren't told. There was nothing on the bottle, if you will, beware of. There was just nothing. It was just kind of a trust us sort of thing. And autonomy is important, especially at a time when you're just not certain what the results are going to be. It was a frightening time, and we were kind of doing things in haste. But at the same time, it is my body, and it should be my choice.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about immigration, and we're going to go over this pretty quick, and then we're going to go to East Texas.
Okay.
So let's talk about immigration. You support the increased deportation of illegal immigrants who are dangerous offenders or convicted of crimes. What's your take on the immigration policies of the Trump administration, and will your administration work closely with ICE?
First of all, what I would like to see is the division in our nation go away, right? I would really like for families to understand that, the immigration and customs officers, they want to go home too at the end of the night. I don't see a lot of people really with their hands up in the air like, I want to be an ICE officer, right? So it is a tough job, and recognizing that I think we should, just like being a police officer, that is a job where, hey, I want my husband home at night. I want my wife home at night. I think we have to have law and order, because that's what keeps our nation thriving. That's what makes America America. So as such, we have to follow the law. We do need a hard, easy path for legal citizenship in the United States. It shouldn't take a scientist to figure that out, So there should be a pathway for people to legally live here. And I say that because exploitation of illegal immigrants has gone through the roof. Sex trafficking. I look at a lot of the children who have been sex trafficked as a result of this. So it really leaves everyone unprotected when we're not following the law, and when we are just not sending illegal immigrants back home in a humane way, though, right? I think there's a humane way to do it, a way of compassion. Children should not be separated from their parents. They should all go back as a family, and it should be proven that that child belongs to those parents. So I look at ways like that, but at the end of the day, we have to follow the law.
My goodness, excuse me. Let's talk about a little bit more on your website. On your website, it says that you will reject the unconstitutional Islamic invasion. What exactly are you referring to here?
Okay, what I am referring to is not discrimination. Let's understand that. I believe in what makes America great, what makes Texas great, is our variety, our diversity. Right? I am a supporter of that. But what I am not a supporter of are communities that we see being built up, where we have Muslim communities come in, and this is just a developed community for just Muslims only, kind of exclusive. Well, that's not what America is all about, and that's not what Texas is all about. Not only that, but the laws that are vastly different from the Constitution is problematic. So let's look at Sharia law, because we've been looking at EPIC. It's now the MEDO, I believe is the name of it.
My next question.
Okay, so with Sharia law, it's not a religion, it is the state. And so to understand that, you have to understand and put in perspective. If I'm in a community and the community supports this Sharia law over the Constitution, that is a problem. Also, if we're not including everyone in a community, and that's exclusion, then that's breaking laws as well. So I believe that if I'm a guest in a country, or if I move to a different country, that not only do I want to share the culture, share the language, share the food, and share neighbors who look different from me, then that, why would I want to move to another country? And so again, friendly neighbors I love, but neighbors who exclude Texans and Texas neighbors in order to live their life and culture as they were in their previous country, that is problematic to me. So I just wanted to set that straight, that it's okay to assimilate into a culture that you trust, that you move to, and you become a citizen, and not live exclusively like a nation inside of a nation.
Well, let's move on to talk about East Texas before we go. Let's talk about our region. The issue of water rights and groundwater pumping has become a hotly contested issue within our region. Where do you stand on this issue?
We cannot live without water, and it should not be corporations or big tech before people and citizens. So this is something that is happening in a lot of our rural towns, and a lot of the cause behind that, or the reason why, are because a lot of AI data centers are coming in and wanting to share water. But the water that is required to run an AI data center is quite significant. Or you can use energy. That's quite significant too. So there's no way that you're going to be a fair neighbor, right? We're talking about sharing with the needs of the people, and both are taken well care of. It's not going to work. So I am totally in favor of helping communities preserve their water rights, and will do everything I can to fight to ensure that the people are put before a technology.
All right. Well, last thing here, East Texas is a growing region, as I did say. According to population estimates from the Census Bureau, Smith County has grown by 16,000 people since 2020. Van Zant, 6,000, Henderson 5, Polk 4, Upshur and Wood 3. How would you as governor, support our region's growth in East Texas. And is there anything else you'd like to add just very quickly before we
Sure.
go?
Okay. So first, before I forget, brooksfortexasgovernor.com. Please go to my website. I always forget that at the end of talking. As far as meeting the growth, the state of Texas, Austin really has to put their heads together because especially a smaller town, if the tax revenue isn't there, it's just not there. But your roads still need to be expanded. Instead of going into public-private partnerships or compromising the safety of communities and citizens, the state really has to come up with a way to look at the financing that is available as statewide and addressing those needs and making sure that counties do not have to go into debt in order to reach the growth that's coming into their towns. I mean, I've talked to commissioners and they're really they're up at night thinking about how are we going to manage this and how are we going to make it work. But it is something that should be done in collaboration with Austin to get the finances that we need, because at the end of the day, we are all Texas. And if one section of Texas is, if East Texas is struggling, or if East Texas has a need to accommodate the expansion, then that's everyone's problem, and we should fix that problem.
All right. Well, this was Miss Evelyn Brooks, who is running for a Republican nomination for governor. If you have any questions, you can head on over to our website. We'll have the full interview there for you guys if you missed any of this. Evelyn, thank you so much for joining us here today on East Texas Now. It's a pleasure to get to know why you're running and your campaign.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
All right.